I think she's a powerful force of good and positive energy.
But she ain't no Elon.
But she also brought us Dr. Oz and The Secret. We have to remember what this lady has done.
She has to be held accountable.
I forgive her, but I mean, cut the shit. The Secret is a particularly egregious offense.
What, you don't believe?
You don't believe? Oh, believe?
I want to be rich. I am rich.
I imagine myself flying. I can fly. I will beat my wings until I take off.
She was more than just a media mogul. She was an institution, a secular saint, a titan whose very name evoked warmth, wisdom, and an almost sacred trust. For decades, Oprah Winfrey commanded an empire built not on brute force, but on the delicate threads of empathy, aspiration, and the promise of a better you. Her influence was unparalleled, her brand untouchable, and her presence in homes felt like a spiritual communion. She didn't just sell products, she sold dreams, turning authors into prophets and transforming mundane advice into life-altering revelations. We watched her cry, we watched her triumph, and we believed deep down that she was truly one of us, a benevolent queen guiding us toward our highest selves from a throne of compassion. But what if that sacred trust, that untouchable aura, was merely the most brilliant, most meticulously crafted illusion of our time? What if the woman who taught us to find our truth was, in fact, building a multi-billion-dollar empire by selling hers for profit, a subtle manipulation hiding in plain sight? Now, the truth is finally bubbling to the surface, pulled into the harsh light by two of the most unconventional yet undeniably powerful voices in modern media. Joe Rogan, the unassuming king of podcasting, and Tucker Carlson, the incendiary lightning rod of cable news. They didn't conspire, they didn't team up, and they didn't even acknowledge each other's existence. Yet their independent, unyielding critiques have converged on one shocking conclusion. Oprah Winfrey's reign as the unquestioned goddess of morality and self-help is facing an unprecedented reckoning, and what they've exposed is far more insidious than any simple scandal. This isn't just about criticism, it's about the unraveling of a carefully constructed myth, revealing a dark secret that has been hiding in plain sight for far too long.
Oprah Winfrey, she's worth $3 billion. She's up there talking about all the racism she encountered.
But okay, so Oprah Winfrey is American, but Kamala Harris, Jamaicans are not Americans, A. B, not oppressed in any sense. They're actually very successful in the United States. Caribbeans in general, I think, make more than native-born whites. They're successful, they're entrepreneurial. They're not part of the history of racism and slavery in the United States, just the opposite. They just showed up here. So, like, this is ridiculous.
Joe Rogan is calling out Oprah and Michelle Obama for hypocritical speeches at the DNC. Watch.
She's up there talking about income inequality. Like, hey, lady.
Yeah, I know.
You're rich as Like, how is that equal? And
for generations, Oprah wasn't merely a talk show host. She was a cultural phenomenon, a spiritual guide, and for countless suburban moms across America, the unofficial therapist. Her Midas touch transformed random authors into household names and obscure products into must-haves. Almost instantly, she literally gave away cars like candy, turning the mundane act of giving into an epic spectacle and effortlessly summoned tears from people who couldn't even explain why they were crying. So deeply did she tap into the collective human psyche. Her empire, worth a staggering $3 billion, was meticulously polished and cloaked in an impenetrable aura of compassion and authenticity. She championed personal accountability, financial literacy, and spiritual growth, building a brand so powerful it transcended celebrity, elevating her to the status of a quasi-religious figure. But beneath the surface of this seemingly perfect empire, a different story was being written, a narrative of contradictions and commercialized enlightenment that would eventually be brought to light by an unlikely duo. Enter Joe Rogan, the quintessential patron saint of skeptical bros everywhere. He's an MMA commentator turned podcasting emperor whose massive platform has become an arena for everything from astrophysics and hunting tales to deep dives into conspiracy theories and gym rat philosophies. Rogan's genius lies not in aggression, but in his casual curiosity and uncanny ability to sniff out anything that doesn't quite add up. He's the guy who, with a simple, disarming question, can unravel a carefully spun narrative. When Oprah's name surfaced in his discussions, it wasn't because of a scandalous interview or an outrageous statement she made directly on his show. It was because his finely tuned nonsense radar started tingling, picking up on the subtle discrepancies in her carefully curated public persona. He approaches her legacy not with rage, but with the quiet amusement of someone watching a magician's trick being performed for the 1000th time, knowing exactly where the wires are hidden.
Have you noticed that it is more controversial to criticize Oprah than to burn the American flag?
Really?
Seems that way. I've never heard anybody criticize Oprah. Do you think it's political, or do you think it's deeper than that? I mean, you're not like a right-winger.
No.
No? No. You don't even seem that political.
No, I'm not really. I'm pretty much, just want to do right by the people,
Bro, you remember the time Oprah had that lady on, his face bit off by the chimp?
Stay there.
And she showed her face on TV?
Oh, yeah.
Miraculously, she survived just the unimaginable. Her name is Charla Nash. Charla almost always covers her face with the hat and scarf. She wears it, she says, because she doesn't want to scare people.
The lady was wearing a veil over her face, like, let's see your face, come on. She pulls the veil away.
Like a nope?
What are you doing?
Would you mind lifting the veil? Oh, no. So we can see.
You could take the hat off.
Oh, the hat comes off.
Yep.
Okay. All right.
Here's Oprah on abortion.
If you do not have autonomy over this, if you cannot control when and how you choose to bring your children into this world and how they are raised and supported, there is no American dream.
There's no American dream without abortion. That to me sounds like a woman that's had an abortion. I don't know, but that's what it sounds like to me.
Well, it's such a grotesque and crazy thing to say that clearly it's coming from somewhere.
Yeah.
Rogan's subtle deconstruction often begins with the blatant contradictions he observes. He's the one who will casually recall the infamous Charla Nash interview, where Oprah, the supposed champion of authenticity, pushed a woman whose face had been brutally disfigured by a chimp to remove her veil on live television. "Let's see your face. Come on," he recounts, mimicking the persistent coaxing. She pulls the veil away like, "No, what are you doing? Would you mind lifting the veil? Oh, what are you doing? So we can see." To Rogan, this wasn't an act of compassionate unveiling. It was a carefully orchestrated moment of voyeuristic drama, exposing a brand built on being real while meticulously controlling every emotional beat for maximum impact. It's this meticulous curation, contrasted with her constant preaching of raw, messy authenticity, that forms the first crack in Oprah's seemingly impenetrable armor. He doesn't need a scandal. He just smells a contradiction, and that smell lingers like an expired protein bar labeled organic. His probing gaze then moves to the sprawling, lucrative wellness rabbit hole Oprah so enthusiastically championed. Her public persona is drenched in the glow of self-improvement, yet that self-improvement often involved a revolving door of magic smoothies, emotional gurus, and questionable life coaches. Rogan starts tugging at the threads. The miracle diets she endorsed, the spiritual fads that reeked of expensive pseudoscience, and the very public yo-yoing between genuine empowerment and blatant product placement. He points to The Secret, a book that sold somewhere in the neighborhood of 20 million copies thanks to Oprah's powerful endorsement. Rogan, incredulous, wonders how someone worth billions, a woman over 50 years old, could genuinely believe, let alone propagate, the idea that merely imagining wealth or success would manifest it. You don't believe, you don't want, you don't believe. I want to be rich. I am rich. I imagine myself flying. I can fly. I will beat my wings until I take off. This, he implicitly argues, is not profound wisdom. It's hocus pocus repackaged as enlightenment, a dangerous delusion sold to millions of desperate people.
Did you see the Oprah interview?
No.
She's off the rails.
Yeah,
Off the rails.
I heard about it.
Into fucking wine mom country again.
Wow.
I'm a gun owner. Tim Walz is a gun.
I did not know that.
If somebody breaks in my house, they're getting shot. Sorry.
Yes, I hear that.
Tim Dillon is the best. Tim Dillon's like, she's saying gypsy curses. What is she saying?
Oprah, who's involved with Weight Watchers, just apologized for preaching personal accountability over the past decades. She said it's not personal accountability. We're supporting Ozempic. This is becoming, obesity is becoming something.
Do you think Oprah got paid?
She's highly involved with Weight Watchers. Yeah, Weight Watchers has shifted from a personal accountability organization that it's been preaching for decades and is now a prescriber of Ozempic. They've totally changed because Ozempic is a better business model because you never go off of it.
This is insane. So maybe one of the reasons this is accepted, people don't see it as totally crazy as I do.
Beyond the questionable self-help, Rogan also called out what he perceived as blatant hypocrisy regarding wealth and social justice. He highlighted her speeches at events like the DNC, where she spoke passionately about income inequality. She's up there talking about income inequality like, hey lady, yeah, I know, you're rich as Tate, like how is that equal? He questioned, his voice dripping with ironic amusement. He views her as a billionaire, lecturing the masses on issues that, by virtue of her extraordinary privilege, she couldn't possibly experience in the same way. He even challenged her stance on abortion, noting her intense declaration, if you do not have autonomy over this, if you cannot control when and how you choose to bring your children into this world and how they are raised and supported, there is no American dream. There's no American dream without abortion. To Rogan, such a grotesque and crazy thing to say clearly comes from a deeply personal place, stripping away her veneer of objective compassion. He sees her heartfelt moments as thinly veiled product launches, where genuine emotion is commodified and repackaged into a lifestyle brand. Joe doesn't need to yell. The contradictions do all the heavy lifting, and as his audience leans in, laughing, questioning, and eye-rolling, Oprah's pedestal starts looking a lot less stable. The queen of authenticity, wrapped in layers of brand partnerships, motivational cliches, and designer self-awareness, appears painfully transparent.
You see Oprah fall down?
Yes, and it's honestly...
She's a little old to be falling down. You loved it?
I loved it.
Wow.
Loved it. She
You
didn't
like
get
when
hurt.
people get hurt.
She's fine.
She's dead.
She died?
Yes.
All right. Ding dong. The witch is dead.
She did.
No,
Imagine if she did, and I was
if she died from the
joking
fall.
about her.
Yeah, we're fucked.
No, she didn't die.
No, she's fine. I just think like...
She looks like she got hurt.
It's nice to see billionaires fall.
Oh.
How about that?
Why is Oprah preaching simplicity from a 65?
Now, cut to Tucker Carlson, a completely different beast entirely. Where Joe wields humor and curiosity like a surgeon's scalpel, Tucker storms in swinging a sledgehammer wrapped in American flag decals. In Tucker's universe, Oprah isn't just a media figure. She's a potent symbol, a soft-spoken Trojan horse for every elite narrative the establishment wants you to swallow whole. He doesn't care about her book club or her favorite things. He sees a billionaire cloaked in compassion, feeding morality lectures to the masses from a marble kitchen in Montecito. To Tucker, Oprah is the smiling face of selective outrage. She speaks up when it's trendy and safe, stays conveniently silent when it's risky, and always finds a way to land softly on the right side of corporate approval. Her brand is meticulously polished, and for Tucker, that's precisely the problem. He digs into her endorsements, not just the cultural ones, but the political and ideological ones too. The vague gestures that always seem to say a lot while risking absolutely nothing. He believes she wields immense influence, but constantly questions what kind of influence, and most importantly, who truly benefits from it. Carlson meticulously points out that Oprah somehow manages to be everything to everyone: feminist icon, corporate powerhouse, spiritual guru, cultural oracle, philanthropic queen. Yet no one seemed to question what was behind the curtain until now. He cites her recent pivot with Weight Watchers, an organization she was deeply involved with, which had for decades preached personal accountability and weight management. Then, suddenly, Weight Watchers apologized for that very message, shifting gears entirely to support Ozempic prescriptions. Do you think Oprah got paid? Tucker asks pointedly, suggesting the obvious corporate incentive. He highlights the cynical transformation. Weight Watchers has shifted from a personal accountability organization that it's been preaching for decades and is now a prescriber of Ozempic. They've totally changed because Ozempic is a better business model because you never go off it. This is insane. To Carlson, this wasn't just a business decision, it was a betrayal of her own previous messaging, exposing her as a tool of corporate influence, prioritizing profit over genuine, sustainable health. He rips down the curtain like it's the climax of a reality TV season finale, exposing a billionaire pretending to be your life coach while controlling a media empire that shapes the national mood like clay.
One of the more I want to say disturbing, but it was confusing when that was taking hold with people. When I had friends that were telling me that the secret is real and that they imagined they were going to fulfill these childhood dreams that they had about whatever, being a fucking astronaut, whatever it would be. But there's a couple people that I knew that were trying to tell me that the secret was going to be the thing, and that they had a vision board and they had photographs, they put pictures up of the things that they wanted. Like them in front of large crowds and shit. And I'm like, oh boy.
Them in front of large crowds.
This is so not how it works.
Yeah, but they're...
While Joe is calling out contradictions and chuckling at wellness scams, Tucker is practically frothing at the idea that Oprah gets to mold public consciousness while pretending to be just like us. He focuses on the insidious nature of her soft power. For Tucker, Oprah isn't just an overbranded media mogul. She's a cultural gatekeeper in pearls. She decides what's acceptable, what's moral, what's cool to believe. One tearful monologue and suddenly a national conversation shifts. One disapproving glance, an entire career stalls. That kind of soft power, he believes, is the slipperiest and most dangerous, precisely because it comes disguised as inspiration. It manipulates behavior without overt force. It cloaks privilege and righteousness. It makes you believe you're thinking for yourself when you're actually just downloading curated morality from a billionaire's mansion. He throws the curtain wide open, painting Oprah as the elite class's emotional mascot, the one who makes inequality feel palatable, who sells you inspiration while dining with CEOs, who speaks to the people while floating 5 inches above them on a cushion of curated optics and lifetime achievement awards. And it stings, not because it's shouted, but because it rings true. Tucker doesn't need to call her corrupt, he just lets the math do the work. Billionaire, brand ambassador, kingmaker, platformer of pseudoscience, endorser of virtue signaling, somehow all at once. He doesn't say she's evil, he just wonders how someone can be that powerful, that influential, that rich, and still be seen as the humble voice of the everyday woman. It's the ultimate magician's trick, turning gold into tears and selling both by the ounce. Here's the magic and the brutal irony of this entire unfolding drama. Neither Joe Rogan nor Tucker Carlson needed Oprah to respond. She wasn't invited on their shows, she didn't issue statements, and she certainly didn't show up to defend herself. They weren't talking to her, they were talking about her and through her, because at this point in their commentary, she's no longer just a person, she's a symbol. Joe sees her as a cautionary tale of brand over substance, a shining example of commodified empathy. Tucker sees her as an elite puppet master cloaked in daytime charm, a purveyor of manufactured morality. And somehow, in their vastly different approaches, they both agree on one devastating conclusion. Oprah might still be selling hope, but fewer and fewer people are buying it. What makes this even more brutal is the stark contrast in their methods, yet the terrifying synchronicity of their impact. Joe does it with an amused ease, a quiet knowing laugh that cuts deeper than any direct accusation. Tucker does it with fiery indignation, a sense of betrayal that resonates with a frustrated populace. And in both cases, Oprah's empire doesn't just get questioned, it gets systematically dismantled, piece by carefully mocked piece. They don't need a smoking gun, no scandalous affair, no shocking quote caught on tape, just the relentless, undeniable pointing out of things that, in retrospect, should have been obvious all along. See Oprah fall down, yes, and it's honestly, she's a little old to be falling down. You loved it, I loved it. Wow, loved it. People get hurt. She's fine. She's dead. She died. Yes. Alright, ding dong. The witch is dead. The commentary highlights a growing public schadenfreude, a shift in how billionaires are viewed. It's nice to see billionaires fall, someone observes, laying bare the changing public sentiment. Why is Oprah preaching simplicity from a 65-acre estate? Why is she promoting empowerment while launching billion-dollar branding deals off people's trauma? Why does she speak out selectively only when the room is already clapping in approval? These aren't mere attacks, they're exposes wrapped in biting sarcasm, and the internet devours them like the last slice of truth pizza at a vegan retreat. Joe's audience laughs and nods in recognition. Tucker's audience furrows brows and nods in indignant agreement. Entirely different demographics, completely distinct vibes, and yet both are reaching the same unsettling conclusion. Wait a second, maybe this lady isn't the untouchable goddess of morality we thought she was, and that perhaps is the true genius of their unintended collaboration. collaboration. They didn't collaborate. They didn't compare notes. They just happened to see the same glaring cracks in the facade. And when two powerhouses on opposite ends of the media spectrum reach the same conclusion, well, it starts looking a lot less like a coincidence and a lot more like a reckoning. This isn't a cancellation. No, Oprah is too big, too deeply ingrained in the cultural fabric to be truly canceled in the traditional sense. It's something far more dangerous, far more insidious. Public disillusionment, that slow, painful, agonizing process where the public stops cheering, stops trusting implicitly, and starts questioning everything. It's not a dramatic fall from grace. It's a subtle yet relentless erosion of the brand itself. The secret, after all, isn't that she's doing anything illegal. It's the revelation that the very foundation of her empire, the promise of genuine connection and transformation, was built on the commodification of empathy and the subtle manipulation of public aspiration. It's a trick, and once the audience knows the trick, the magic is gone. The timing is critical. The cultural tide has shifted dramatically. Once upon a time, Oprah was the undisputed North Star of public morality, her pronouncements carrying an almost divine weight. Now she's beginning to look like a luxury yacht with a broken GPS in the wild, chaotic seas of digital pirate radio. People are tired of being sold truth that benefits the seller more than the seeker. Rogan, floating by in a kayak made of elk meat and free speech, points out every shiny contradiction with a smirk and a protein shake. He doesn't need to yell because the evidence is everywhere, laid bare for all to see. Here's Oprah preaching balance and mindfulness while selling you 10-part docuseries on trauma, bundled with a yoga mat and a lavender candle. Joe unpacks it like a bad supplement label, seeing through the wellness fog, the overpriced water bottles blessed by moonlight, the spiritual advisors with full-blown PR teams, the empire built on 1,000 self-help books that somehow always lead back to you being the problem, unless of course you buy her solution. Meanwhile, Oprah's original audience, those daytime viewers who once saw her as a voice for the voiceless, are starting to feel something far more unsettling than betrayal. They feel duped. It's not the shock of a scandalous revelation, but the slow, dawning realization that their beloved life coach might have also been selling them the furniture they were crying on. Joe, without ever saying it outright, paints the perfect picture. A woman who once stood for raw, messy authenticity, now wrapped in layers of brand partnerships, motivational cliches, and designer self-awareness. It's not evil in the traditional sense. It's just painfully, glaringly transparent. And then you've got Tucker loading up his metaphorical cannon and aiming it squarely at the pedestal. He's not concerned with green juice or gratitude journals. He's watching the bigger game, the politics, the control, the raw power wrapped in a meticulously crafted smile. For Tucker, Oprah isn't merely an overbranded media mogul. She's a cultural gatekeeper in pearls. She subtly decides what's acceptable, what's moral, what's cool to believe. One tearful monologue and suddenly a national conversation shifts. One disapproving glance and an entire career can stall. That kind of soft power terrifies him because, as Tucker believes, soft power is the slipperiest. It comes disguised as inspiration, but it manipulates behavior. It cloaks immense privilege and righteousness. It makes you believe you're thinking for yourself when you're really just downloading curated morality from a billionaire's mansion. He throws the curtain wide open, exposing Oprah as the elite class's emotional mascot, the one who makes vast inequality feel palatable, who sells you inspiration while dining with CEOs, who speaks to the people while floating 5 inches above them on a cushion of curated optics and lifetime achievement awards. And it stings not because it's shouted, but because it rings profoundly true. Tucker doesn't need to call her corrupt. He just lets the math do the work. Billionaire, brand ambassador, kingmaker, platformer of pseudoscience, endorser of virtue signaling, somehow all at once. He doesn't say she's evil. He just wonders how someone can be that powerful, that influential, that rich, and still be seen as the humble voice of the everyday woman. It's the ultimate magician's trick, turning gold into tears and selling both by the ounce. And the audience, they're not furious, they're not rioting, they're blinking, they're thinking, they're starting to do the one thing Oprah's empire cannot withstand in bulk: doubt. The era of unquestioning devotion is over, replaced by a cold, hard glare of scrutiny that threatens to expose the true price of manufactured authenticity.